How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Aviary. Today, for the first time in months, we are back in the bird room. So we've been obviously all over the country in the autumn and winter of 2024. We've been at many different exhibitions, British bird specialist, canary specialist of a number of different breeds, and of course the big BKA Premier All Varieties show. All fantastic experiences, and we still do have a couple more shows left of this winter. But today we are back in the bird room. It is absolutely freezing here. I can see my breath as I'm speaking. It's been about -4 overnight. We've got forecasts of -7, -8, so it is pretty chilly. So today we're going to take a look, well, first off, around the bird room. We'll see how everything's getting on, but also the winter management of our birds, and we'll see how we help them get through those cold, harsh winter months. When overwintering our birds in these sub-0 degrees conditions, I mean literally -3, -4 here this morning, there's snow on the ground, the drinkers and all the baths have frozen up, so it's quite a lot of management to deal with, but our birds need our help, and we absolutely must do everything we can to help them survive these harsh patches. So the first thing I do is give them high-fat winter seed mixes. So that comes in two different forms for my birds. Either one, I'll give them straight sunflower hearts, and I'll also give those to the wild birds too, to help them get through these parts. It really helps put a good layer of insulation on the birds and give them the energy stores to get through the cold nights. I'll also give them a winter seed mix. So this is a real mix of things like safflower, hemp, oilseed rape, niger seed, little bits of millet, all sorts of little small fattening seeds that are going to give them those energy stores in abundance and give some insulation and put a layer of fat over the birds to keep them warm. Because we keep small passerine species like lesser red poles, greenfinches, twite, things like that, these small birds that are weighing only a matter of grams, maybe 10 to 20 grams between the lot of them, losing massive parts of their body weight, in some cases up to 75% of their body weight in a single cold night, can be massively detrimental to them. So it's really important that we give them a good supply of these fattening seeds. So what I'll do is two different things. And it's about feeding regimes. It's making sure that our birds are getting those big supplies of energy at the right times. So whilst I'll always have them on a normal seed mix throughout the winter months, and I'll always give them access to some form of fattening seeds, I am giving them at two separate times. So the first way is giving it them right before they go to roost. So I'll give it to them in an evening, say an hour or two before it goes dark. That'll let the birds fill their stomachs and their crops full of these fattening seeds that they can slowly digest throughout the night and use that energy to keep warm. And then in the morning they'll have used all of that energy, which is where the second thing comes in. So I'll give them another round of those fattening seeds or whatever it needs to be, so they can once again stock up, and if they have lost any weight overnight, they can quickly put it back on in the form of fat as energy stores for the foreseeable. So that works really well for me. It helps the birds get through these cold periods, and I have not lost a bird due to the cold in a very long time since doing this. It's important we keep our birds active during the winter months too, so lots of different things for them to do and keep them warm over the winter is really important. So the first thing is I'll give them a lot of natural perches. Now I would give them natural perches anyway, but at this time of year I've had my apple branches now, which I harvested in the summer, drying for a couple of months. They've now dried, so I've put them in for all of them, and they really enjoy hanging on them, pulling at them, and doing all the things that birds of course do with it, and it's good exercise for their feet as well. But I'll also give them natural forage, so I'll give them things like the wood chip, and I'll sprinkle some seed down there, or I'll give them vegetables once per week at this moment in time, and I've been getting things that make them actively work for their food. So things like broccoli. I got some fresh broccoli from the supermarket last week. I've diced it up into quarters, used S-hooks to hang it up, and then suspended it from the roofs of the flights and the cage fronts of the cages, and that's worked really well. well. It makes our acrobatic species like the lesser redpolls, like the twites, work for their food. They're hanging upside down on it, foraging, actively working to get that food. It keeps them warm. It's great mental stimulation for them, and they really enjoy it. So I highly recommend you do that to keep your birds active and to keep them healthy over the winter. Now, because it's the new year, it means our breeding season preparations have begun. Now, it's still absolutely freezing here. The breeding season is not until April to mid-April, so it is a long way off, but we have to prepare our birds and prepare ourselves for what the breeding season is going to bring, and I always do that in the new year. So whilst I have been looking through things like the lesser redpolls, we've had the DNA sent off for them recently, so I can look to make them into pairs and decide who's staying in the breeding programs and who's going elsewhere. Same for the twites, deciding our pairs, our greenfinches, and sourcing other birds that we might need. I have been preparing the birds too, and that's only little things at this moment in time. It's basically weaning them and preparing them for what the breeding season is going to bring, and the first thing is the food they're going to eat. So what I've been doing is giving them something. It's a product called Happy Bird Green Starter. It's like a dried product. You mix it 50-50 with water and it hydrates. I then mix that with either egg food, which I'll begin doing in March because it has a higher protein content, this time of year another Happy Bird product called 360, and that works really quite nicely. Mixing it in a 50-50, it makes an egg food crumb that I'll give to the birds, and I have been using that since the breeding season. We had really good success with it. Redpolls reared their chicks with it, canaries reared their chicks with it, and so did some of the twites and some of the greenies too, so it has worked nicely for me. But I've been giving all of the birds that in egg food drawers, and it's basically just to get them onto that idea that they are going to be breeding within the next couple of months, and to make sure that they are eating that food, because that is what they're going to be rearing their chicks on at least a lot of the time. The Unico Feed 360 pellets are a complete diet, so you can completely replace dry seed using them. So whilst I haven't done this with any of the native birds because they don't seem to take them as often right now as they will normal seed, for things like the canaries, they have actually been choosing to eat the pellets over the seed. So I do still give them a mix of both, so they always have access to the thing they've used to been feeding on versus the new product. So I'll put the Unico feed in the external drawers, and they really do enjoy that. It's plenty of good nutritional benefits for the birds, keeps them healthy, and that is really important, of course. And then soon, when it's the breeding season, I'll change them over from the 360 Unico feed pellets into a reproduction Unico feed pellet, and that's just got different things in it that are going to bring the birds into breeding condition. And I'm really looking forward to trying that with my canaries this year, as I didn't so much in the last breeding season, because by the time I got the products and got the birds feeding on it, it was towards the end of the breeding season. But it has worked really well for me. A massive thanks to Aviary Supplies Limited for sending me those products. I really do appreciate it. And more good news for you all is that if you are interested in buying any of the Happy Bird range or anything from Aviary Supplies Limited, then use my code OCAviary10 for 10% off your next order. So that's OCAviary10 for 10% off your next order from Aviary Supplies Limited. I'll leave in the link in the description, and thank you to Aviary Supplies Limited for sponsoring today's video. So as many of you know, we have been involved in some conservation work over the past 18 months with a beautiful little British finch species known as the Twite. Now this is the British subspecies of Twite once again. It's known as Linaria flavirostris pipilan. So it's the pipilan subspecies, and I believe there's 11 different subspecies that occur over Europe, Northern Europe particularly, and Asia. But it's the British ones that we're interested in. They're facing functional extinction in England, so there's believed to be anywhere between 30 and 10 birds remaining as breeding birds, which is extremely low, and in Scotland they are rapidly decreasing too, with only several thousand left, mainly on the isles around Scotland as well, in the Hebrides. So they are a species that is rapidly on the decline, and certainly needs some sort of intervention. So we've been working with some conservation and rewilding experts over the past 18 months to breed these birds in captivity to increase the numbers. So we've originally got our birds from a couple of different captive breeders, of course, and then we're gradually increasing our population. So right now we have 26 of them. We have a couple of young birds, a couple of adult birds, and 2 flocks of young birds as well. So we're doing all right, and I'm hoping we'll have maybe 10 to 15 pairs for the upcoming breeding season. But the reason I'm telling you all this is that the twite is a semi-migratory species, which is unlike some of your more common finch species, like perhaps your goldfinch, your greenfinch, that will quite commonly and often reside in the same sort of areas. So what a twite will do is it'll have its breeding ground in an area of Highland, in moorland, whether that be the Pennines, the Peak District, the Lake District, or in the Highlands of Scotland. And then during the winter months, they will do one of 2 things. They'll either stay at the breeding grounds all year, or they will migrate south to the coast. So what often you'll find is birds from Scotland might migrate to the English coastlines, and then they'll return to Scotland pretty much all the time to go and breed. And that is exactly what's happening with these birds. So what's happening with them is the diet is changing naturally. They're going from areas of moorland where they've got quite acidic sort of plants and soils and things that is growing the seeds. So they're eating weed seeds, they're eating bilberries, they're eating heather flower and things like that. They migrate to the coasts, and number 1, it's generally not as acidic, and number 2, it's got quite a high salt content. So what I've done is I've changed the seed mix to, at the moment, one is very much like grass seed. It's a siskin mix, it's really lean, and it's doing a really good job of keeping them happy and healthy. They're looking fantastic, to be honest, at this moment in time, so I'm really pleased with that. But I'm also giving them a mix of grit and salt. So I'm giving them a salt mineral and a grit mix, and that is exactly what they're going to be picking up in the wild when they're found on these coastal salt marshes. They're obviously going to be feeding on this sort of stuff that's going to increase their intake, change the body sort of chemistry, if you like, but also prepare them for the breeding season. So since November, I've been giving them that mix. They really do enjoy it. It's like seasoning for their seed, if you like, but I do put it separate for them. And it's just a little tip for you there that I've found extremely useful, and the birds have responded very well to. So hopefully that helps you if you do have twites too. Heading out into the aviaries then with our greenfinches. So we obviously have European greenfinches that I have as exhibition birds primarily, and they are, well, they're extremely hardy birds, so even when it's cold, they're quite happy to be out here. So I've got them in these flights at the moment. I've put some cardboard up as a sort of a protective thing so they can sit on a perch behind that. They've got a bit of Christmas tree up here, and I have covered the front in plastic so they don't get the wind in, but they still get the temperature. And that's worked really well. It's pretty much kept all the weight off them. So they have put a bit of weight on as you need them to keep warm throughout the winter. But you often find with greenfinch, particularly the exhibition birds, they hold their weight, they have quite low metabolisms, and they can be difficult to get fit. So having them in flights throughout all of the winter has really paid dividends, to be honest, and I think all going well, it should help us this breeding season. So I've given them quite a plain European finch mix at the moment with a bit of sunflower hearts mixed in, and they're absolutely loving that. It's absolutely fine. Baths on for them even this morning. I've gone and replaced the baths. It's -3. The baths have all frozen up, and quite a few of them have bathed, of course, and they're all soggy and wet. But if they're happy to do that, then I'm happy for them to do that. So that's worked quite nicely for us, and we do have a hybrid pair in here as well. So this is a new mule pair. This is a yellow intensive self-green Norwich Canary cockbird with a common crossbill hen. So this is a crossbill mule pair. Now the reason I've done this is because of, number one, successes of other fanciers on the show bench. They breed an absolutely stunning mule always do, or generally do well at the shows, and I would very much like to breed one. So it's going to be a new challenge for the 2025 breeding season. We'll see what happens, and so far things seem to be looking well. Not much aggression between the birds. They seem to be getting on well, and I have got them in a flight too, which is helping keep the Norwich fit. He's not putting on a lot of weight and being quite docile as they usually are, but we'll see if that translates to any success in the breeding season. So usually I don't do mules and hybrids, it's generally just pure species, but we'll have a challenge, we'll give it a go, and we'll see what happens. So we'll look around the rest of the bird room then. We've got our lesser red poles, of course. We had an extremely good breeding season with them in 2024. I think it was 24 or 26 we bred. So I was really pleased with that result, and the youngsters are looking really quite good quality, which is very pleasing. It's exactly what we want, because we do breed them selectively for exhibition as well. I've just got the DNA results back literally today, so I am going to be sorting through them soon to decide what birds are going to be going into our breeding program, from which bloodlines, and then which are surplus to requirements. And we've got our adult birds down here. I think there's a 5-year-old in there as well, one of the adults. So, you know, you keep them well and you keep them right, they do last a long time, but it might be maybe a sort of a year late to breed from them. So they might just be a case of retirement home birds, those ones. But I'll have to decide. We've got our show birds, so we've got a male greenfinch, which does a lot of winning for me in the novice categories. I worked out the other day, he has won 20, I think, novice special awards since 2021, so extremely proud of him. We bred off him this year for the first time, or last year for the first time, so this is his son, who I'll be showing too. We've got a clear siskin mule that I've been showing over the sort of past year or so. We've got 3 red poles I separated off that are part of my show team, so they're almost definitely going to be staying to breed from. A couple of other show birds on the bottom. We've got 2 groups of more twites. We've got our frill canaries, so I need to have a better sort through them and decide exactly who's going to be staying. I'm probably going to go 3 pairs of them for 2025, because we do have a new and quite rare, unusual, old variety of canary coming in, which I'm very excited to share with you all once they get here. We've got, of course, the twites we just spoke about, some more groups of them. We've got our hawfinches, so we're going to have a pair of hawfinches for 2025, so hopefully we can all do it going well, do one better with them, and get them weaned, malted, and then we'll see what happens with them. But it was certainly a learning experience with them in the 2024 breeding season with the hawfinches. An amazing species, but quite difficult to keep. And then finally, some very exciting things right now, and I can't show you it just yet. We do have a soft bill, and I'm very excited to show you, because I don't think many people ever have seen one of these. So really looking forward to sharing that with you very soon. We hopefully, all going well, we'll be getting another pair of soft bills in for the breeding season, so we are going to finally do some soft bill things on the channel, and I'm really excited to share that with you all. It's a beautiful species we've got coming in of native British soft bill. And then finally, with the conservation work we're doing, we do have a new bird room in construction. So I say bird room, it's basically a massive cabin full of aviaries. It's unbelievable. It's nearly finished construction, so that's where we're going to house all of the twites for the 2025 breeding season, and we do have 1, 2, possibly 3 more species coming you'll have never seen on the channel before that will be breeding for the conservation and reintroduction work. So extremely excited to share that with you all. But anyway, everyone, that is all we've got time for today. So if you have enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe down below, smash a like on this episode, go and follow us on other social media. You'll get daily updates, behind the scenes footage of all of our birds, all sorts of things we get up to. So that's Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. And then finally, massive thanks for watching, really do appreciate it, and I'll see you all again soon. So thank you very much and take care.